what we've discussed so far, that's what the company needs. That's the responsibility from the company, if you like. Now, you as an applicant, you will have to demonstrate 3 key things on your side, potentially a 4th. The first 3 key things that everyone needs to satisfy as an applicant would be A, maintenance. So you would need to show that you have enough money to survive in the UK, including any dependents applying, without needing recourse to public funds. Now, that could be based on either A, your salary to be earned in the UK. So generally speaking, if you have a family of 4, so that's yourself, a partner, and 2 kids, I would expect to see a salary of at least 30,000 minimum to survive in the UK. Now, the problem with the maintenance requirement is it's not like other visa categories, which says you need to have 1,200 in the bank, for example, held for 28 days. It still uses the old test, which is the adequate maintenance test. The adequate maintenance test basically looks at your family structure. And roughly speaking, for 2 adults in a relationship, that you would expect to show £115 a week, and roughly speaking, about £70 per child a week. Now, so you basically need to total that up, take into account how much rent you pay and how much council tax you're going to pay. And then that's what we call the income support thresholds. So £115 per adult for 2 adults in a relationship, and £70 per child. You add them all up, plus your rent on top of that, plus your council tax. That's what we call the income support thresholds. You need to show that after you pay your rent in the UK and after you pay any council tax in the UK, that you're over this threshold. So in order for me to conclusively assess whether you meet this test or the requirements or not, 30,000 is the general idea, but for me to be able to confirm specifically, what I would need to do is, and this dovetails nicely into the other requirement you need to show, is you need to find accommodation before you apply. It's not one of those situations where you can say, I will find accommodation, I'm going to live in a hotel temporarily until I find accommodation, thank you very much. You need to actually have permanent accommodation in place. And what I mean by permanent doesn't mean that you need to own the property. You can have rented accommodation agreed, or you could live with family or friends. So long as their property is large enough, you could live with family and friends as well. But I would need to know basically how much rent you're looking to pay. Now, the answer could be 0. If you're living with family and friends, the answer could be 0. That's not a problem. And therefore, your council tax could also equally be 0. That's not a problem. But I need to know where you're going to live and whether that means you're going to pay rent or not. Because once you give me that information, I can then assess what your salary would need to be in order for us to meet this requirement.